We are back live, so I'm going to welcome everyone now back into the Dover Board of Selectmen March 7th public part of the meeting. The first item of agenda for the public part of the meeting is the FY25 budget update.
You need to do citizens' comments.
Thank you very much. First item, citizens' comments. See, Robin, Mona didn't stick citizens' comments into the agenda part.
No, it is at 6:30.
Really? I'm
Yeah.
looking right on I have the meeting packet opened up. You must be looking at the agenda.
Right.
Chris, Michael, were there any citizens' comments by text or email or anything? I don't see any hands raised in the chat. I don't see any items in the chat session. So seeing none, we are going to move to item 1.1, which is the FY25 budget update.
Great. I'm just going to share screen here.
I got too many screens open, Michael.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
So hopefully, again, I know we're running way behind our schedule. We'll give a relatively brief update. Robin and I are going to tag team this, and thank you to Chris and Carl and Robin as we work today right up until the meeting started, basically to get this set. So I appreciate everyone's hard work. So just to set it up, we've presented a couple different versions of the budget, but just to reiterate some of the challenges that we're facing this year. So obviously, inflationary pressure with all the standard energy, health, labor costs. Our budget requests included new positions, both for the community center and additional essential functions of town operations. The budget sees an increase in debt service for the community center and capital items. Capital reflects the need for repairs and replacement of aging infrastructure as well as equipment, vehicles. And the school. So the Dover Sherburne Regional School came in at a very low interest rate, which is terrific increase percentage. But obviously their budget's large, so the number is impactful. And then the Chickering School saw a significantly larger increase, primarily due to three reasons: increased out-of-district placement, a one-time cost for a new math curriculum, and then an additional 0.5 FTE at the school. And again, all of this balanced against our ongoing goal of responsibly using reserves, moderate and predictable increase in property taxes, and maintaining our AAA rating and the fiscal health of the town. So since we were last here, there's been some notable reductions in the budget that we have made, to try to, because we do know it's a challenging year, and to try to reduce the budget increases. So one is we reduced a number of our FTE requests. So one is a project manager, which again is the board may recall, that was a position that was previously funded that had gone away. But we do believe it's a critical piece for our operations as we don't have any internal position to help with our projects or our IT. You'll also see we eliminated an IT analyst. This was a position that actually hadn't been filled in a couple of years, but was on the books. But we did eliminate that, as well as a new request this year for a payroll and benefits coordinator to assist the treasurer collector's office. We also eliminated that request as well. We've reduced financial consultant support, which was in the Board of Selectmen budget, by $50,000. We've looking to potentially apply, and there's a little asterisk here because we are running down the specifics with the state, but we received funding from the state related to flood and storm damage at the end of last summer. And so we're hoping to apply that to repair a culvert that was damaged as part of the storm. We're looking to use $319,000 in excess free cash to fund the town's long-term OPEB liability. And we were also able to use a total of $1.1 million in ARPA funds, which, as the board recalls, is one-time funding through the federal government we received to reduce capital both for stormwater which was related to the flooding at the highway garage, as well as a capital item request from DPW for a 6-wheel dump truck. So that was a real big help and significantly reduced the capital budget requests. So now I'll actually turn over to Robin to go over some of the funding requests and the use of reserves. This is her nice spreadsheet that she put together, so I'll let her talk through this.
So what we tried to do here was pull together at a really high level the entire budget. And the way we looked at it was not just to focus on operating expenses, which is Article 4, but to take Article 4 plus Article 5 plus the special articles, because that is all the funding that needs to get approved at town meeting. And all of this is primarily supported by the tax levy. Then we also wanted to show the various uses of free cash, because we have a strategy in place. We have excess free cash and or excess cash reserves of 10.5 million. But of that 10.5 million, a significant portion of that has been earmarked to fund liabilities that the town already has. And the reason being, it allowed us to fund reserves to pay for those liabilities, and also to not have spikes in the tax rate. And that was something we were really striving for. When we put this strategy in place, we recognized that when you have variations in the amount of capital that you're funding, and you're primarily paying for that out of your tax levy, your tax rate is going to spike up and down, and that spike is difficult for citizens and households to absorb. So this is all part of a very long-term strategy that the Board of Selectmen put in place. So the first item, and what is really noticeable, is in Article 4, the budget increased by 6.6%, the operating budget. As everybody knows, the tax levy can increase by 2.5% each year. Fortunately for us, we have excess capacity under the tax levy, which allows us to fund years where the increase is higher. This year, there are a couple of items that are really driving that increase, and I'll go into more detail on the next slide in the operating budget. But it's really new positions that we added. It is also the significant increase in debt and interest payments, and that's for the servicing the debt that we put on our books last year to fund the additional 6.6 million for the Carroll Community Center, as well as capital items that were funded. I think it's very important to note that in insurance and pensions, the $419,000 increase, $319,000 of that relates to the town's OPEB additional funding that we have made a commitment to fund OPEB, which is our retiree healthcare costs, over time to get us to the 60% funded limit. And that does reside in the operating budget. However, it is going to be funded through free cash. The reason you see the increase this year is that last year we did not fund the additional amount because we did not have an actuarial report available at the time. So that's why it's popping this year as a variance. With respect to capital, we presented last year that over the next 5 to 6 years, we have a lot of capital that needs to be replaced. And that's in the form of replacements such as big trucks at the highway department, but there's also a significant number of infrastructure projects that are in there. This year, we started the capital budget requests at just a little shy of $4 million. But by vetting the requests and also getting creative using state funding, we were able to reduce the impact to the taxpayer significantly, and the overall ask was 1.8 million, of which we right now have earmarked about 657,000 to be funded via debt and not the tax levy. The other big item in there is special articles. That's $1,040,000. Important to note that 762,000 of the $1,040,000 is our share, the town of Dover's share of the region's OPEB. So the region's unfunded pension liability, and as part of our strategy for free cash, we voted to fund that based upon the actuarial report as well, with the desire to get to that 60% level of funding. The green below is just the free cash that we're going to be using at town meeting to offset the 48 million of funding requirements. And this year we're earmarking the 3.3 million. Included in that is tax relief for the original piece of the Carroll Community Center, the 18.7 million that was funded originally before the 6.6 million increase in cost to build the center. Just as a reminder, at the special town meeting, when that debt was approved, we also noted that 3 years later, the Chickering debt would mature. And so the Board of Selectmen represented to town meeting that we would utilize excess unallocated free cash balances to offset the difference to taxpayers. So basically what we committed to doing was not to increase tax bills for the Carroll Community Center debt until the Chickering debt was completely matured. So to keep tax rates the same. We also again are funding through free cash some of the capital expenditures. We have $700,000, which will be $355,000. We're reducing the tax rate, which we've done in prior years, by $800,000, and we're assuming right now that all of the special articles will be funded by free cash. Just FYI, the special article 700 is the OPEB, and then we have some placeholders for the housing ask for additional consulting for moving some free cash to the stabilization fund. So that's what the full $1,040,000 is for. So on the next slide, we'll go into some more detail on what are the major cost drivers in the operating budget. And so we broke this out into some buckets. The first bucket is the Dover Community Center. And in the Dover Community Center, we have $233,000 of asks. That is comprised of a director, 2 custodians, and an increase in utility costs. For the Board of Selectmen, we also have some new hires that we requested, and we have a finance director for $112,000, and also, so I think this is the wrong version, Mike.
Yeah, something got lost there.
Yes, yes, because this is the program manager, and the program manager, this position in the total budget has been taken out.
So you will eliminate the IT and the,
Yeah, we
yeah,
eliminate the 105 from the budget. So this total number was actually reduced to 331, but it
from
just didn't come
441.
through in the slide.
So
So I
instead of
apologize for that.
441, that's
It's three
331.
thirty-one, right,
Okay.
right. And we'll update the slide. There are some offsets for those new ads. There's also an increase, we increased the stipend for the ambulance. And it's something we really needed to do. We have on-call ambulance. We need those people we need EMTs to be available, especially on weekends and during the week. And we found that by increasing the stipend, we have sufficient EMTs to cover the ambulance, which is important for public safety. We also have, there are actually fees associated with the solar project, but those are offset by decreases in utilities. So you have the offsets in the other line, and we have some additional paving that the DPW director has requested, and that is based upon a study that was done. And to maintain the roads, he believes he needs to increase the amount of annual paving over the next few years by 50,000. We also have, and this, we struggled with where to put this, but Park and Rec is asking for an additional 0.5 FTE for an assistant. So they have a part-time assistant. They would like to make the assistant full-time. And again, this really relates to what they believe are going to be demands as a result of the use of the community center. So we have, the increase in the operating budget is still high. There are some additional asks and for new positions, and in talking to Mike, there are some other opportunities that we could look at to get creative in the short term and see if we can make things work using creative combinations of people to fund positions. We're especially nervous about all the positions we're asking for upfront for a community center that really hasn't come online yet and won't come online until October or November. We're not exactly sure how it's going to operate. One of the things we can certainly do is stagger the hires of the custodians, because we're not exactly sure how we're going to use them. And we have been talking to Park and Rec about, the custodians versus the assistant, the additional hours for the Park and Rec assistant, because ideally we're thinking this building would be open from early morning to somewhere in the evening, like 8 or 9. And so they could, in theory, stagger the hours of their director and the assistant director. So Mike is talking directly to Mark, and they're trying to think outside of the box of ways that they can ensure that the center comes on board, but we slowly together figure out what staffing we need, so that we, first of all, the most important thing is to get the right staffing for the center. So Mike and Mark have been talking and trying to get creative as to how to staff that. And so, there is Park and Rec certainly understand the pressures that we have on the budget this year. So we'll see if we can come up with a creative solution. You know, the schools, we talked to the business manager of the schools, and there's really, you know, the increase in the schools is large, but it's 981,000. But a lot of it is just driven by some out of district cost increases at Chickering that we have to cover.
I was gonna say, there's no choice in most of that.
No, no. So, you know, we expect over the next few weeks to be able to present to the Board of Selectmen some more creative scenarios that we can consider.
We have our last slide is on that. Do you want to touch briefly on this, Robin, or?
Right. So what I tried to do here, and I'm showing it a little differently from the way it is in the model, because I wanted to try and show it so that people in the town might be able to understand. So the biggest, you know, our biggest source of funds is our tax levy. And right now, given where the budget is today, we are about 1.2 million below the tax levy. But that is compared to being 3.3 million below the tax levy the year before. So there is just in that line item, there's an 8.5% increase, and people are going to see that on their property tax bills. You know, again, the local receipts are based upon estimates. We saw, you know, we've been talking to the assessors, and they still feel comfortable with the 2.7 million in receipts. So the local receipts are like excise tax bills and things like that. And, you know, they feel uncomfortable raising those estimates anymore. The state aid number is a pretty good number, as is the cherry sheet offsets. And then we have the 3.3 million is our use of free cash. And then what I tried to do below is just to kind of look at the reserves and say, you know, right now we have 1.3 million in the stabilization fund. We have 600,000 in the capital reserve fund. We have 1.8 million in the regional OPEB that we funded. We're projecting the 10.5 million in free cash, but keep in mind, at the end of town meeting, that number is 7.7 because we're going to use 3.3 of that. So, you know, we still have some excess unallocated free cash, but again, we've allocated those to fund liabilities that already sit on our books. But in coming years, if we continue to feel financial pressure, we can reconsider, you know, whether or not we want to fund the full amount for the OPEBs for both the region and the town, or whether, you know, we may want to consider taking a little longer and reducing that so we can free up some of the tax levy to pay for some of the other one-time items that we have coming up, like capital. We just have a lot of capital coming up.
Robin, how close are we to the 60% OPEB funding? We were at about 50% left.
Yeah, on the town, we're very close. We're closer. At the region, you know, one of the things that worked against us was the change in mortality tables.
Yeah.
So we were much closer at one point than we are today. I was hoping the increase in interest rates offset that, but it didn't.
No.
Right.
We have
and,
too
you know,
many.
with the region we just started, you know, one of the other things we're going to look at, and the region is going to fund. They also started funding some of this unfunded OPEB. So one of the other ways we can reduce this year's budget is to reduce our 764 by the Dover share of what the region is making. It's not going to be a huge amount, but that that could be another way to reduce the funding requirement.
I just feel
Every little bit helps, so.
I feel confident with the excess in the levy limit that we can go up to if need be. And I also feel comfortable with the amount of cash, free cash that we have promised. If you look at what we built into the model for the smoothing, and Dave, you will recall we started this from back in the old days when we would huddle with Warrant the night before town meeting. That is really 6 years ago when we began this process of institutionally smoothing the known and the unknown, so we would eliminate, as Robin referred to, as the spikes. It has worked really, really well because we have avoided the temptation to use the free cash to a very large extent, and we have been very fiscally disciplined, utilizing our levy limits, staying under the levy limit, so we had excess capacity. So when times like this present themselves, it's not panic, it's not, cut and slash. We can be methodical in going about the long-term adjustments in the budget items.
Right, I mean, one of the things that really came to light this year was the impact that debt service has on the operating budget or the funding needs of the town. So, some of the items that we discussed and is modeling more precisely the amount of debt and the versus the useful life of the assets. Right now, all of the debt that we added, it was assumed that we were going to issue the debt for 5 years, but some of that debt related to infrastructure projects. AAA communities typically don't issue small amounts of debt for more than 10 years. So we need to balance the Moody requirements versus our needs. One of the suggestions that Dave Havlin had was, what about doing bands, which is a temporary way to finance until we get a larger amount, which is more attractive to an issuer. So bundle a couple of years of bands and then issue some permanent debt. So we'll look at that as well, because we really haven't used debt in the past to fund capital, but we just have so much capital that this really is the way to fund part of it.
Yeah,
So
I do
we'll
agree.
just be a little more, again, we'll just be a little more strategic. I think the modeling has been really helpful. We've been tracking things well. We do have some additional levers that we could pull if things get tight. But I think it's really important for the town to know that we're working hard to try and reduce the operating budget as best as we can. But in the first few slides, inflationary pressures are impacting us as well. The cost to get good people and maintain those people has just risen.
Yeah. The one thing that we also have to remind people of, Robin, is getting the note that we got on the community center at the time we got under the terms that we got were absolutely the best timing we could have hoped for. If we had gone to the market today, that number would be significantly higher. So that's another thing that's working in our favor, that although it was a lot more expensive, we got it at a very good time.
Right. I mean, the other thing is, I'm sure everybody is aware of educators going out on strike. And we did negotiate our educators contract this year. And, you know, the years of mutual respect that we have with the educators, we were able in a difficult environment to reach a very fair 3-year contract. And that is also a credit to this community. You know, our teachers respected our needs, and we respected, you know, the market for the educators. So we were really fortunate as well.
We just being mindful of time, Dave. Anything, Dave, comments that you would like to have? Do you would like to add to this?
A very sincere thank you to Robin and to Mike and his team for pulling this together. And then I just want to quickly ask Robin, the Board of Assessors like to be conservative with their new growth. Does this still include that same new growth number from the assessors?
Yeah, it includes 100,000 of new growth.
So in likelihood, the reality will be a bit better. But of course, no one knows what the future is going to bring. So it has a little bit of a built-in safety valve for the future.
Right. It helps that cushion for the tax levy, right?
Right.
Thank you.
So I'm good. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Dave. And Michael, is there anything you want to add before we move on to the next item?
No, I mean, I think the last slide, which I cut short just so we could see each other, you know, Robin hit on those with the exception of the next item that we'll discuss. So we'll do that on the next.
Did I forget, Mike?
No, we didn't get to it yet. That was all.
No, we're right. We're moving on. The item 2 is the discussion for the proposed treasurer, collector, director of finance position in the recruitment process.
Yeah,
I left it for you, Mike.
Thank you. So, you know, as the board's aware and the public may be, we recently had our town treasurer collector resign to take another employment elsewhere. So, you know, happy for him, sad for us. But when we have vacancies like that, we try to think creatively and see are there any opportunities to do something different with a position before we recruit and fill it. So given our difficult budget year, in the budget now, we have a full-time treasurer collector, and we also have a request for a full-time finance director. So for your consideration today is a combined finance director, treasurer collector position. So the thought of this would be to, you know, within our budget, it would eliminate a position request. It would elevate this position. So we would go through the personnel board process to review a revised job description, you know, potentially, or I'm sure, increase the salary for this position, but obviously significant savings as opposed to adding a whole new position. You know, we are looking at other considerations for the office, because obviously to have one person do 2 jobs is not reasonable, and we're going to talk about that later under our human resources item. So we don't want to create a similar problem. So we're looking at how we can better structure the office. So we're also working with our team and the personnel board to look to restructure some of the other positions in the office so that this new person has all the support they need and would give them time to do some of these higher level things. And then also involve other people. So looking at some of the responsibilities of the finance director going to our assistant town administrator, perhaps other staff, accounting staff, things like that. So in your packet is a draft job description. You know, again, I don't think we need a vote tonight. I think I was looking for some consensus from the board that you would support us pursuing this with the personnel board. Ultimately, the personnel board is the one that approves a job description. What is in your packet, and I don't expect you to have studied it, but is a combination of the treasurer, collector, and finance director into one document. And if you are supportive of this effort, Robin had a suggestion that perhaps we look to engage a consultant, in this case, Community Paradigm, a recruitment firm who was part of my recruitment, which I hope you deem successful, as well as our town planner, which was also a successful search. So given the difficult market, given that for finance positions, in particular municipal government, we thought looking to engage a recruitment firm, particularly one we're familiar with and we've been successful with, would be a good idea. I have reached out to them just to connect. As a consultant, he's in Florida this week, so he's going to connect with me next week. But that's part of the consideration as well. That was an effective way to make sure we get some good, high quality candidates.
I thought you were going to say he scheduled a meeting for you in Florida, so you're flying down tomorrow.
Yeah. Can you prove that expense reimbursement?
I'm pretty sure Robin and I have Bernie on speed dial.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. And the other piece of this is because it is so difficult to recruit for finance positions, this is a much more attractive position. So, as a smaller community, while our compensation is very competitive, it is hard to attract people making any sort of lateral moves or another treasurer collector to come to Dover because we are smaller, right? Most people are looking to go to a bigger community or city. So having this kind of unique combined position, I think would be much more attractive, and we would see a higher level, higher caliber of candidates applying, which I think would be terrific.
Yeah, it's I just reflecting as you were reporting that, Michael. I was just reflecting upon the challenges in the personnel role with in hiring this position. The last time we did it, the challenges that we were faced have not gotten away. They've become more pronounced.
Right. And that's why I think, so what was interesting is we're not the only town that's actually has this combined treasurer, director of finance position. I believe it's the town of Sudbury has the same position. But I do, given that we're a small town, I think, and given the struggles we had just going out for a treasurer, this way we could get somebody with experience, but also give them some additional experience being the director of finance. So I really do think it's a win-win. I agree with Mike. I think we will have more seasoned individuals looking at this role. And I think it's something we really need in that office right now.
David?
I always appreciate creative solutions, and I think we are making lemonade given some lemons. And so I'm in support.
Right. And are you, I really do think that if we go through Bernie, like I know the planning board found that using community paradigm, they got really high quality candidates, whereas when they went out on their own and advertised, they didn't really get anybody.
Yeah, they have,
They have connections.
I think what we've learned from Bernie and using community paradigm and others is they have the scope and they have a larger reach and they have a little bit more, they're a known entity. So when they're looking and screening and they're searching, their search is a little bit deeper.
And they know who to call too. So
yeah.
Who might be looking? So no, they're on top of it. I think that makes sense.
Michael, you worked with Bernie. You got a feel for working with him too, Dave.
Absolutely.
On the search for Mike.
Yep.
Right. And Mike, we're not bound by budget, like by a bid process and a bid for that, because it's not. I know there's criteria, and that this does not seem to be part of the criteria where we're excluded from picking somebody.
Yeah, great question. So there's different levels based on the cost. So part of my reason for reaching out to Bernie was to determine where this would fall on the procurement level. If it's under $10,000, then nope. We have good experience with him. We could contract directly. And I believe that's what happened with the town planner position. The town administrator search was more expensive, so I believe you had to request proposals. So So depending on where that comes in, my hope is it will come in under the $10,000 threshold. But I'll keep you updated, and hopefully, if that's true, we'll be before you with a contract to get that moving.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So there's no motion required for that item. We're going to move on to the next item of business this evening, and that is order and assign the annual town meeting warrant articles.
Yep. So
Michael, go ahead.
Late this afternoon, I sent you just a draft with a note that we'll actually defer the vote until we have a chance to more thoroughly review this with the town moderator when he's back next week.
Okay.
Just the draft shows we are looking to pull a few articles. Just want to confirm that. So one is, and just so there's no concern, we don't not care about retiring police officers. That is crossed off. It's only because there are no officers scheduled to retire, so we don't believe there's a need to fund that. I just didn't want anybody concerned.
Scheduled would be the key word. Scheduled.
Potentially, there was a placeholder for a one-time recreation item that may fall within the capital budget, so that may come off as an independent item. And then lastly, the Parks and Recreation. I don't know if it's 100%, but 99% have agreed to pull the rail trail item for a future town meeting. So we believe those will come out, which may slightly alter some of this. So we'll get back to you when I have a chance to work with our Jim Repetti early next week.
So Mike, they actually voted to pull it.
It was formal. Okay,
right,
perfect.
Right, okay. Because they started looking at all the information that was out there, and they realized that they just didn't have the time to get educated and up to speed.
Right. So overall, again, I think there'll be a lot of very good discussion, particularly on the budget as we saw, but it doesn't look like an overwhelming town meeting warrant, which is great. And I did just want to mention that this week, hopefully by the end of this week or early next, Chris has worked on a mailer that will be going out to all residents. That is an advertisement educational piece for open hearing as well as town meeting. So it's a new way to kind of communicate to help hopefully encourage people to get involved. So you'll see that shortly in the mail. And it has a QR code and a link directly back to our website. So as this is updated and finalized, the warrant's produced, people can get direct access to that, as well as the warrant eventually being mailed out as well.
Great.
That's neat.
Great.
That's great. I love the QR codes.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you. So the next item of business is a follow-up, a housekeeping item that we discussed last week. It's the discussion to end the intermunicipal agreement 1.4 for shared human resource director between the town of Dover and the regional schools. We discussed this last week. We've discussed it in previous meetings. Michael will discuss the agreement for the shared human resource director. The agreement is effective July 10, 2023 through July 10, 24 as a trial period. We've discussed this. We've analyzed it. Both the town administrator and the superintendent of schools are in agreement that the intermunicipal agreement end earlier than July 10, 2024. And Michael, I don't know that we're going to have a whole lot of discussion on this, but before we go to the vote, if you want to comment.
Yeah, no, I just want to share that, again, we've talked about this, but, I really want the public to know this was a really great effort between the schools and the town. We had a very good working relationship. This is not a divorce in any sort of way. It's just an acknowledgement that, as we mentioned before, the two jobs were too big for one person. And, I think it was a really good effort. It was good both for operation, it was good for the taxpayers to try this, but unfortunately it just didn't work out. So the superintendent and I have been in discussion. We'll continue to discuss kind of how this winds down, the financial implications and things like that. But the superintendent has agreed that the HR director's last day for the schools will be March 15th. And so that's the vote here to make the agreement effective or expire effective that date. And then we're working with the personnel board to bring Robin with an I, Robin Tassina, who's the HR director, on full-time on the municipal town side.
Great. Robin, Dave, would you like to add anything?
Another creative solution, reworking as in it works from the budget and it works for the town. It works for Robin. Let's go.
Robin with an I.
With an I, yes.
Does
You
it
get
work?
her full time and she takes over the benefit.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Right.
another creative solution.
And
And you
Robin,
know, the first solution we were very excited about. It's just we didn't realize how much we needed a full-time HR person and the schools didn't realize how much they needed a full-time HR person. So, you know, I was talking to Dawn and she said, they're sad that it didn't work, but it was just the demands of the job.
Beth said the same thing. And I know that Dr. McCoy will it's good. It's a good effort. As Dave said, it was a out of the box solution, and we'll move to the next item. So I move to end the intermunicipal agreement for a shared human resource director between the town of Dover and the Dover-Sherburne Regional Schools effective March 15th, 2024. Ask for a second.
Second,
All in favor? Aye, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Dave Haviland.
Thank you very much. And so we are going to move to item 5, approve the local regulatory and the use agreement between the town of Dover and Red Robin Pastures LLC. Michael will discuss the local regulation and the use agreement between Dover and Red Robin on 61 through 63 County Street in Dover, which is Route 109 for our folks who are viewing this after the evening and those who are with us on the chat. Michael, you're muted.
Sorry, just for the board's benefit, and especially any public that may be listening, to be clear, this agreement is with the original Red Robin development that has already been approved and is currently being built. This is
It's
not
almost
related at all.
completed.
Yes, this is not related at all to this potential new proposal behind this existing development. So this is really just a standard agreement. It is required by law for the developer and the town to enter into this agreement to determine the parameters once the project's built. So the developer already entered into a very similar agreement with Mass Housing. And that governs the affordability components of the project for 30 years. So I think it's 2051 from when it was originally signed. This agreement that we're asking you to approve tonight kicks in once that agreement terminates. So it keeps this in perpetuity so that the units remain affordable. In this case, the project was 34 rental units, 9 of which are affordable and would remain affordable. It makes sure that things like the units have to be indistinguishable from the market rate units. They can't, treat them any differently, can't build them differently, and that the bedroom mix of the units has to stay the same and cannot change unless, and all this could change if the ZBA amends a comprehensive permit, but otherwise it keeps all that in place. So again, it's very standard. Town council drafted this. It was reviewed by the developer, and I would ask for your support to approve it. I would authorize me to sign it on your behalf, and then we'll have it properly documented and filed.
So, Michael, I'm looking at the document. It's a lot. There's a lot to go through. It's a thick document, and the 9 rental units that are affordable are a mix of 1, 2, 3 bedroom, correct? And so
Correct.
there's 2. So my simple assumption was going to be 2 1-bedrooms, 2 2-bedrooms, 2 3-bedrooms.
I immediately cannot confirm or deny that, but that's a reasonable assumption. I'm trying to look quick to see if I can find.
I'm sorry. So there would be 3 of each Three
Thank you.
of
I was gonna
each.
say that math didn't work.
Yeah, I apologize. I just looked down quickly and said, no. I didn't mean to say two. Three of each. And then that would be proportionally the same as the others.
Correct. I'm trying to, I don't have the comprehensive permit in front of me that has that breakdown, but I believe that that would be accurate. And
Are
then
they
again, this agreement locks that mix in.
got it? And do they have to be on this? It's again three different floors, three different, does it matter where they are in the building, or is that enforceable? How does that work?
That's a great question. So I'm quickly trying to pull that. All that would be addressed in the comprehensive permit that was issued by the ZBA. So whatever that is, it's already in place. I can't seem to pull it up quick enough, so I can't answer your question. But
No.
I'm not sure if floors are part of that or not. It's a really good question, and I'll keep looking while we're talking. But I'm sorry, I can't pull it up fast enough.
All right. Robin, anything you'd like to add?
No, I think they're really, all I can say is I believe they're really kind of strict guidelines with respect to the affordable units. So I believe they have to be exactly like all the other units and
Correct.
representative of the units in the building as a whole.
Yeah,
It's been a long time, but when I was on the housing partnership, that was my exact understanding, Robin.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Same.
And then, individuals have to qualify. So they have to have a leasing agent that within this facility that understands the qualification requirements. Because mass housing it's the town and mass housing have rules on, how much income, how many assets these individuals can have. So you can't give anybody this affordable unit.
Who enforces it?
So ultimately, the state does, and it's administered. There's different providers that administer, like whether it's a lottery system or the application process for those affordable units.
So I am going to move to approve the local regulatory and use agreement between the town of Dover and Red Robin Pastures LLC as presented and on file. Mike, do I have to add that to it, or we just as presented, we are declaring that this has already been approved by the state?
Well, it's been approved by our attorney, right?
Correct. So what is being presented to you has been approved and recommended from town council. It's in compliance with state law.
In compliance with state law. And ask for a second.
I'll second that.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Dave Haviland.
Thank you all. I would just also like to add that even if we as a town were opposed to this and we voted tonight to not approve it, it would not impact the process of this particular development moving forward.
Right. I mean, it's almost completed, the construction
Right.
of this unit.
Right. So this what you voted tonight has nothing to do with approvals for the project. It simply protects the affordable units.
The affordable unit.
We're
And
not
I
only
wouldn't be,
law to do this, but you want to ensure that those units stay.
right.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they're gonna start leasing, because it looks like it's pretty close to coming online. So
Yeah.
Does. It does. Item 6 this evening is the approval, the property access agreement between the town of Dover, Dana and Lisa Story for 12 Whiting Road, Dover, Mass. Summary for this, ladies and gentlemen, is Michael Blanchard will discuss the property access agreement and the licensing agreement between the town of Dover, Dana and Lisa Story at 12 Whiting Road. Just for context, 12 Whiting Road are the neighbors that abut the backside of the the Dover Community Center on Whiting Road. There is currently a fence that borders the property. The discussion between the town and the owners have been concerning the fence, concerning the land, and concerning drainage that Michael will explain, and the agreement that has been reached between the parties. Michael?
Thank you. I mean, you hit kind of a summary of it anyway, but just for the record, this was discussed in your earlier executive session with town council, and now it's on open session for you to consider actually approving it. But as you mentioned, the Stories are abutters of the community center property. They had a credible claim that they adversely possessed a strip of land that was owned by the town, but was within their fence line. We were advised by council, there is a law that prevents people from adversely possessing public land, but in this case, the Stories had a credible case that the possession was vested before the law was put into effect, which made this a risky litigation for us. So instead of litigating, town council negotiated with the Stories attorney and arrived in agreement that the Stories would dismiss their lawsuit in exchange for exclusive access to this disputed strip of land. The town retains ownership. We're able to use it. In this case, we're using it for installing drainage needed for the community center. However, we basically effectuate this agreement through two documents, which you reviewed earlier tonight. One is an access agreement, which covers the town's right to access the area for installing or maintaining this drainage for the community center. And then the second agreement is a license agreement, which gives the Stories exclusive use of the land going forward. Noting that the license agreement is good for a three-year period and eligible to be renewed. And again, that's limited because of Massachusetts contract law. We can only engage in a 3-year contract. So again, you've had a chance to review that. I, town council, would recommend you move to approve those agreements.
The only thing I'd like to add for context for those of you that are viewing this live this evening and on recording in future at a later date are, for context, the Stories have owned the property for over 20 years. As Michael alluded, they have a very solid claim. We've negotiated this at length over a very long period of time. The Stories have taken meticulous time, attention, care to improve the property. They've done exceptional landscaping. The property has increased in value significantly in the time that they have owned it. It fits really well into the topography of the land. The fence in question sits at the very highest point of the property. Their kids have a large play area that runs along the side between the fence, their driveway, and the backyard. It's in keeping with the town of Dover, and it really is a very, very well-kept property. So we've gone through a painstaking process with them. As Michael said, this is in the best interest of everybody involved. I am in favor of this. Robin, anything you'd like to add?
No, thanks for the summary.
David?
No, thank you.
I am going to move to approve the property access agreement, the license between the town of Dover, Dana and Lisa Story, for 12 Whiting Road, Dover, Mass. And ask
I
for
will second that.
all in favor. Aye, John Jeffries.
Aye, Robin Hunter.
Aye, Dave Haviland.
Thank you very much. We are going to move to item 7. Dave, this is your first meeting. It has been this is quite an introduction you've gotten, my friend.
Right, Dave, there's the Monday, a week from Monday is the
This little thing on
town
Monday.
caucus.
Yeah, exactly.
So we should have made this meeting shorter.
Please don't.
You're going, right?
Please do not,
I don't know. I'm thinking about it now.
do not reconsider.
one meeting and he's retiring.
So, Robin, I just want you to know that Mona still has you do
I
as the
know, I
presenter on
know,
the
I know.
consent agenda.
I noticed that. But John, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Oh, thank you. The consent agenda this evening consists of approve and acceptance of expenditures of the Massachusetts Electric Vehicle Incentive Program, Mass VEVIP, Public Access Charging Grant of $50,000. Item 2, to approve the Weston and Sampson proposal for the additional design environmental services in support of the site improvements for the DPW building at 2 Dedham Street in the amount of $39,400 to approve bulletproof vest programs, reimbursements, the grant contract renewal, to approve the chief of police outside employment request per his employment agreement, and to approve the April 4th, 2023 open session meeting minutes provided to us by Mona DeScello, which were fabulous. So if without any discussion, is there any discussion on any of the items? I will move to approve the consent agenda as presented, asking for a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor, aye, John Jeffries.
Aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Dave Haviland. Do I need to abstain on the meeting minutes since I was not part of the board?
So you
Um,
not,
Right.
this has been looked at legal counsel a number of times. You
Right.
simply just, it's not a verification that they're accurate. It's just that you're accepting the minutes.
Okay, great. I'm all set.
Thank you. And I am scrolling as fast as I can through the lots and lots of. We are the last item.
I'll second.
Before you do that, John, if you don't mind, because the agenda was a little bit longer today, we accidentally dropped off the update. So I just had two things I just wanted to share.
Thank you.
So one is I just
I
wanted to
was
thank.
scrolling for them.
We had this is my first time in Dover when we had an election in the building. That's new to me. Usually in other communities it's like at school. So it was really fascinating to see how smooth it went. I just wanted to thank our town clerk Felicia, Darlene, her office, all the poll workers. It was very smooth. Did not disrupt our operations at all, and they did a great job. So thank you to them. And then also for the board and the public to just be aware, next Thursday, March 14th, our engineering consultant will be deploying a drone over our Claybrook Road project. So just in case the board gets any calls or if the public sees that, just want to make them aware that a DPW employee will be on site with them, but that will be happening.
And the purpose of the drone is just to look at take pictures or?
Yeah, I think our engineers like to showcase their work.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it was a pretty neat and unique project. So they're going to get some good shots of it.
All I can say is when we went to town meeting, we kept saying, well, if it doesn't get approved, who knows if the road will disintegrate or not. And it has been such a wet winter and early spring, and the river is just so high. All I can say is, thankfully, we were able to get to town meeting to approve that because I think the road would have been in the Charles River.
Exactly right. Oh my God, it would have gone from one side right over the road right to the other.
Right.
If there are no, Robin alluded to next Monday, March 11th, the town caucus. Dave, that's just such a cruel.
Timing is everything. And for those of you who don't get the joke, Dave Havlin, our newest member of the Board of Selectmen, was just voted in on March 5th. And because he is filling in the term of Mr. Springett, he has to stand for re-election in the May election.
In
Wow.
6 days.
Right.
I now know what the U.S.
And the process starts again in 6 days.
I now know what a U.S. House of Representative feels like because they're just constantly running. So,
well, congratulations and good luck on Monday at the town caucus.
Or you can do nomination papers again, and you know that, Ralph.
I think I'll stand at caucus.
Yes, I think it's a very wise decision. I am going to move to adjourn this evening's meeting and ask for a second.
I will second that.
All in favor? I, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Dave Haviland.
Thank you all very, very
And
much.
with all sincerity, it was a long meeting, but we got a lot done. And thank you very much, Mike and Chris, for pulling everything together. There was a lot of stuff that happened right at the last minute. So much.
Exactly. And then Mona too.
Yeah, and Mona too. I was just gonna, but she doesn't show her face. So I don't know that we can give her credit. Did you hear that, Mona? Am I shaming you?
Robin. Yes, I heard it.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Thank
Good
night.
night. Thank you, everybody.
Night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.